All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning online coffee and conversation. I'm Catherine Snyder, and I'm here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley in Lafayette, Colorado. The Centers for Spiritual Living is an organization that teaches that each of us is a divine being. That what we think and what we say matters, and that we can change our lives by changing those things, changing what we think, changing what we're feeling deep inside. And we do have control of that. And what we hope to give you is the tools to do that. Our vision and our passion is inspiring and uplifting every one of us to transform ourselves and then the world. We start each of these talks with a type of prayer we call an affirmative prayer. This type of prayer is not about beseeching to an outside God, but about inviting our own manifestation of that divine to come forth, that divine energy to come forth, declaring the truth of who we are and what this day will be. And usually I ask Jim to do our prayer, but he's out. Laura, would you do our prayer for today? And I'm sorry to spring that on you, but I'd really appreciate it.
That's okay. I'd be happy to. So I invite each and every one, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes, tuning in, turning within to that still small voice, and taking a big, deep breath in and feeling the breath of life filling your body, filling your heart, and just releasing and letting go of that which no longer serves. Bringing yourself fully present to this now moment. For this moment is the only moment you have. And this now moment is filled with love and light and laughter and community, with each one gathered. And so each one of us opens ourselves up to the insight, the wisdom, the sharing, the information that comes through Lori and that comes through each one of us in conversation. So I know and claim that that divine intelligence that is orchestrating all of life is orchestrating this conversation, this beautiful gathering, this community, these connections. And since it is that divine wisdom, intelligence of all of life, it can be nothing but beautiful, perfect, and good. And I am grateful for the presence and the conversation and the contribution of each one present, knowing that this information that Lori shares and the conversation that comes afterwards is beautiful and perfect for each one listening. Knowing that all is well, it is good, and this container is whole, complete, and perfect just as it is, I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. Now, our speaker today is Lori Carlson. She is a licensed practitioner with the Center for Spiritual Living in Morristown, New Jersey. She started studying this teaching in 2016, became a licensed practitioner in 2022. And after many years of helping people with their physical bodies as a massage therapist, she now focuses on helping people with their mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. She's a published poet and uses poetry as part of her ministry, channeling spirit in a co-creative way. She's also very active in her recovery community, and with 10 years in the program, she aims to combine the science of mind teachings with recovery principles to better serve those in need of spiritual guidance and support. I'm so glad that you're here with us, Lori.
Thank you, Catherine. And I guess I did need to update my intro because it's 11 years now.
Oh, of course.
So I just celebrated 11 years in November. So I am really grateful. Yeah, thank you. I am really grateful to be back here in Boulder Valley, and really grateful to be sharing a message with you this morning. So, it's the beginning of a new year, right? And so it's a perfect time to come back to our core beliefs and to really reaffirm our core beliefs in this teaching. And one of our core beliefs is that we are one with the divine, right? And this week's theme or affirmation from Center for Spiritual Living, the home office, was, I am a radiant reflection of divine love and wisdom. And so I just thought that was perfect to affirm our belief and to come into that place of knowing this and to see how that demonstrates in our lives. Because the life that we experience comes back to how much we truly believe this, right? If we believe this enough, all things would be possible, right? The work is always to deepen our faith, to strengthen our understanding, to grow our consciousness through classes, through readings, through spiritual practices, through contemplation and conversation like here today, to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are one with the divine. Oh my God, like that we are expressions of the divine, that divine exists in, as, and through you as it does in all of life. That's what our spiritual journey is all about, right? That's what we believe in this teaching. And that's what we are here to affirm and to know and to really incorporate that on a level where it is just who we are and how we show up. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, this too is good. This too is God. This too is for me. Yeah. Well, if I can really embrace that, if I can really incorporate that into a place of deep knowing, then what stands in my path, right? Then I have access to infinite abundance, infinite power, infinite wisdom, infinite truth. If I know that this too is God, this too is for me. And I know that that's really difficult to do in the world, looking out at circumstances and conditions. It's often really difficult to grasp our minds around that concept. But if God is all there is, and I know Catherine doesn't like the term God, but so if spirit is all there is, and we are all expressions of that spirit, and there is nothing separate from God, spirit, sorry, Catherine, then we are all in that divine flow. And what is there but good, but God, because that's Emma's word, but spirit? Ernest Holmes says, God is all there is. God includes everything, all possibility and all action. For spirit is the invisible essence and substance of all form. He also says, we are it to the extent that we grasp it. So here's my question: to what extent do you grasp it? I know that I often, I know this intellectually, and I often tell myself, I repeat it in affirmation, but the challenge of being a spiritual being, having a human experience, is to really know it, right? Is to really live, eat, and breathe from that place of just knowing that you're one with the divine, that the divine is everywhere present, and that it is always happening for our good. And it's certainly not an easy place to be. It's not something that just happens naturally. I mean, the mystics, right? So I think that, it's easy to say it's hard in this day and age to look out at the world and think that, but I think it's probably always been hard. I think no matter what age you were in, it was probably always difficult to look out into the circumstances and conditions of the world and see it all as God and to see it all as good. But that's what the spiritual consciousness is, right? That's what a mystic had, that experience where the oneness with God, their deep faith became their physical experience, became what demonstrated in their lives, because they knew it. They knew it from a place of consciousness where it just was who and what they were. That's where we all aim to be, right? How much can we believe? My other favorite thing that Ernest Holmes says is, how much can we believe? As much as we can believe will be done unto us. So how much can you believe? Like, do you believe that all things are possible with God? Do you believe that you are a divine reflection of spirit? And to what level do you believe that? Because we can believe it, like on a superficial level, coming here once a week and, saying it, affirming it, or we can live it. We can actually show up as that divine manifestation. We can show up as that radiant reflection of love and wisdom. And that's why it's so important what you think, what you say, how you act, right? Because we are always putting into law that which we believe. The law is always operating. It is always creating that which we believe. So it's really important to choose to be aware of and to consciously and mindfully choose what you are putting out there, because we get that to do that. We have freedom, we have free will, we have volition, and we can choose, maybe not our first thought, but we can choose a different thought. We can choose to build on our beliefs and to change the ones that don't serve us into ones that do serve us. Ernest Holmes also says, ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects. If then certain specific ways of thought and belief have produced limitations, other beliefs will change them. Oh, there you go. We must learn to believe. The approach should be direct and it should be specific. So that is a freedom and a responsibility, right? You can change what happens by changing your beliefs, and you have the ability to do that. So how do you do that? You do that with mindful awareness, with daily practices, with paying attention, with what you choose, where you place your energy, and what you choose to focus on. We remember that the law is ever present and it is co-creating with us. So what are we putting into law? Most of you know, and I've shared this here before, that I have a daily affirmation practice. And I affirm every day that which I desire. It doesn't mean that I totally believe it. It doesn't mean that I'm living it. It means this is what I'm affirming for myself today. So I repeat it over and over again. I share it with a lot of people, and I do it with intention and I do it with awareness, because I am trying to embrace it, to allow it to sink into my consciousness to such a level that it just demonstrates, that it becomes who I am, right? I want to feel it in my heart and feed it into my consciousness in a way that has to demonstrate. So I repeat it over and over and over again. And I do this with mindful attention to what comes up as I do it, right? Because like that's where my growing edge is. That's where I get to learn what it is that I truly believe. Because when I'm repeating this affirmation, that little voice of doubt comes up, or my minister likes to say, yeah, in a pig's eye. But, when that voice of doubt comes up, that's my growing edge. That shows me what I need to work on. That shows me what I need to perhaps release, or what I need to study further, or what in me needs to be healed. That really is what teaches me. So I know I've shared this here before too, that I call that voice in my head Bertha, that negative voice that tells me that wants to, sow seeds of doubt and tell me that I'm not good enough or whatever. So I call her Bertha to separate her from me. But when that little Bertha voice comes up, that's when I need to come back to that place of faith. And I love this quote by I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Paramahansa Yogananda, says, many processes are involved between the sowing of the affirmation seed and its fruition. All conditions of its growth must be fulfilled to produce the desired result. The affirmation seed must be a living one, free from the defects of doubt, restlessness, or inattention. It should be sown in the mind and heart with concentration, devotion, and peace, and watered with deep, fresh repetition and boundless faith. Whew. Well, that's what I try to do with my affirmation practice, right? I do the repetitions, certainly, the deep, fresh repetitions, and I try to talk myself through those defects of doubt, right? Those areas I try to pay attention with intention, so that those little seeds of doubt, that little restlessness, that just wanting to get it done or whatever comes up, that does not become the place where I am planting these seeds. I want to plant it in that place of boundless faith. And so I pay attention to what stands in the way of my boundless faith. I pay attention to what comes up. And then I spend time in visualization and in feeling what it would be like if that affirmation was absolutely true and demonstrated. Like I'd spend time with, oh my God, how will that feel? What will that look like? What will my day be like? I totally put myself in that place because we know that that's how you demonstrate, right? We put it into the law from a place of deep faith and feeling tone, right? It's the feeling tone that adds energy to that thought, to that seed. And so I place myself there and I consciously and mindfully, with intention, demonstrate it in my own consciousness, affirm it in my own consciousness, and plant that seed. This is also a good place, and where I often use 7-step treatment because, most of you, I think, are familiar with 7-step treatment, which includes the denial step. So this is where I also can deny my doubts, can deny that Bertha voice, can deny whatever stands in the way of my knowing this truth and reaffirm the truth. Because in this teaching, we know that the work is always in our own consciousness, right? We are always treating our own consciousness. That's the only place we can do anything, really. I mean, you can do things out of the world, but the transformative work is in our own consciousness. As within, so without. And so we are always working on what we think, what we believe, what we are acknowledging, what we are affirming within. And that's why that mindfulness, that conscious attention is so important, because that's what the law is responding to. The law is responding to what we are consciously aware of and what we're subconsciously aware of. But we get to choose, because we're in this teaching, because we're on a spiritual journey, we can be aware of those subconscious things that are popping up like that little voice and choose differently. And that's what the work is, whether you're responding from a place of conscious awareness or whether you're just reacting from habit and from race consciousness and from limiting beliefs that you used to, espouse, or that other people have told you. This is the work. This is the choice that you get to make every moment of every day. And we know, in the Bible it says, "Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Right? That's the Bible quote. And Florence Scovel Shinn, who I know because of Catherine, it says, "Whatsoever a man soweth." Well, that's the Bible. This means that whatever man sends out in word or deed will return to him. What he gives, he will receive. If he gives hate, he will receive hate. If he gives criticism, he will receive criticism. If he lies, he will be lied to. If he cheats, he will be cheated. This means that what man images sooner or later externalizes in his affairs. Wow, right? So that's what I was talking about paying conscious and mindful attention to what you're putting out into law, to what you choose to create, to what you're giving, because as you give, so you receive. So if you're spending your time in negativity and doubt and fear and anger and resentment, guess what? That's what you're going to get, and that's what you're going to experience. That's what your world is going to look like. So if you want the world to look like love and joy and peace, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to, plant in your consciousness. That's what you need to grow and expand in you so that you can show up that way in the world, so that that can be the world that you create, right? In this teaching, we say we want to have a world that works for everyone. So how are you contributing to that? By your consciousness. Ernest Holmes also says, "We are chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. What then shall we create?" So once again, it comes back to that infinite possibility, right? That exists in spirit, that exists in knowing we are one with the divine, that exists in knowing that it is all one. There is only one mind, one power, one presence, one love, and we are a part of that. But it is only to the extent that we know it that we're going to demonstrate it. It's only to the extent that we are willing to do our work, to do our inner work, that we can show up in a way in the world that allows that to be our expression. So once again, it comes down to, what are you paying attention to? What are you choosing to believe? Do you believe you are a radiant reflection of divine love and wisdom? Are you placing your energy in knowing that, in deepening that place? Or are you telling yourself you're not good enough and placing your energy and your attention on the circumstances and conditions in the world that want to tell you that? Because let me tell you, they do. I mean, are you spending your energy envisioning the worst possible scenario that could happen? Or are you spending your time and your energy in spiritual practices and envisioning what you wish to see in the world and trying to be a part of that through your consciousness, through your actions, through your words, through how you show up in the world? And once again, and I say this over and over again, it comes down to your daily practices. It comes down to what you do every day, where you spend your time, because those are the things that define you. Those are the things. You aren't what you do once in a while. You are what you do every day. So what are you doing every day? What are you affirming? What are you showing? How are you showing up in the world? How are you bringing this consciousness of love and oneness into greater expression just by who you are, just by showing up? I know that it's really hard in this world to look around, to look at the news, and to come back to this idea that you are a radiant expression of divine love and wisdom, and so is everyone else. But this is what the practice is, to remind yourself of this, to do whatever brings you back to this truth. Spiritual practices, whether they're affirmative prayer, meditation, walking in nature, journaling, making music, making art, talking to others, being of service, whatever it is for you that is a spiritual practice that reminds you of the truth of who and what you are. That is what you want to be doing. That is where you want to be spending your time, telling yourself and reminding yourself of who you are. And who are you? A radiant reflection of divine love and wisdom. That is the truth. That is what we believe in this teaching. And that is what our work is, the spiritual journey, to know that on a deeper and deeper level so that it just flows out of you and just is who you are. And that is what's going to hold you through the difficult times. If you can build this foundation of faith and build up these spiritual muscles and these daily practices, then you will have that to rely on when life tests you. Because let me tell you, life will. Since the last time I spoke with you all here, I've been through a lot of loss. Um, my partner of very many years got sick very quickly and died. One of my best friends committed suicide. And so there's been a lot of grief, there's been a lot of loss, there's been a lot of pain. But let me tell you, my spiritual practices and my faith are what have supported me and helped me get through this. And I don't know what I would have done without this teaching, without this belief, without the things that I do on a daily basis that have helped me get through. Because I know that, like I said at the beginning, this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me. And I'm not saying that I'm glad that any of this happened. I don't wish that my boyfriend was gone. I don't wish that my friend was gone. But I can see, because of this teaching, because of the spiritual practices I can see how even this has grown me. I have seen already how I have grown, how I've been forced to walk the talk, how I have been forced to rely on what it is that I believe to support me through this, to support me through the difficult times of life. And I am leaning into that because I believe in the eternality of life. I believe we are all one with Source. I believe in the power of love and that love is eternal. And I am leaning into that. I am leaning into that, and I am choosing to place my awareness and my attention in gratitude for all that I had with my boyfriend, for all the friendship I had with my friend, for all the things that we shared, for all the blessings that we enjoyed. And I am choosing to focus on that rather than all that we will not have in the future. rather than in the loss of what I won't have. I am choosing to be grateful because I know that the depth of my grief just shows me the depth of my love. And I would rather feel that than not feel that because I want to be an expression of love. I know that I am a radiant reflection of divine love and wisdom. And so I lean into that. I choose to be grateful. I choose to be loved. I choose to rely on my beliefs, on those core beliefs that have supported me and have held me up through this time. Uh, you know, there's this quote I love by this woman named Nicole Reed that says, sometimes the bad things that happen in our lives put us directly on the path to the best things that will ever happen to us. And that's a really hard thing to wrap your mind around, but this has been my experience in recovery. In my recovery journey, I totaled a car and ended up in rehab against my will. I got thrown out of the halfway house I was in against my will. Like, and every time, a lot of things happened. And every time one of those things happened, I thought it was the worst possible thing. My life was over. How was I ever going to come from this? And looking back, they were all things that happened that grew me. They were all things that happened that turned out to be the best possible thing for me because it allowed me to become who I am today. So, as difficult as this time is, what I'm going through, I am choosing to believe in that. I am choosing to believe that this too is for me. I am choosing to believe that I am going to come out of this stronger and with deeper faith and with a grown consciousness that can show up better as love in the world, that I can be an example to others of possibility. You know, my boyfriend wasn't in this teaching, but you know what he did believe? He believed what I believe. He believed that I believed. And so he didn't believe the same thing, but he could see how it worked in my life. He could see the comfort and the depth of belief and how it changed who I am. And so I know that we get to show up as this today, right? In this teaching, if you have someone in your life who is struggling with seeing their own divine radiance, if they think they are separate from God, guess what? As a practitioner or as a student of this teaching, you get to know it for them. You get to see that within them and mirror it back to them. You get to be a reflection of other people's divine radiance and wisdom. That's our absolute privilege and honor as practitioners in this teaching, right? And we get, I mean, what a blessing that is. So we get to believe that, we get to show up as that, and we get to be that for other people. That that is pretty much the purpose and mission of my life. And that is how I use all of the things that have happened to me as happening for me. Because this is what I believe, that the universe doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. So those things that happen, the circumstances and conditions that create my experience, they allow me. They happen for me because they allow me to show up for others. I have greater empathy for what other people are going through. I get to show up in a way to be of better service. I get to be that reflection of divine radiance and wisdom, I get to reflect the radiance of divine love and wisdom. That's who I am today. That's how I get to show up because I make the conscious choice to choose it, to believe it. So you can do it too, right? We can all do it. Ernest Holmes says, the sum total of all our thought, will, purpose, and belief creates a tendency in this law that causes it to react to us according to the sum total of that belief. And what I find so interesting about that is sum total, right? SUM, not SOME, sum total. So what is the sum total of your belief? I know there's probably a part of you that believes you are a divine being, a spark of the divine. But is there a greater part of you that is like, yeah, I'm not worthy, or yeah, I'm separate from God, or yeah, you're not worthy, or yeah, you're separate from God. So I want to look at this idea of the sum total as like a pie chart, right? So in the pie chart of your belief, how much of you believes in the truth? How much of that pie chart is full of oneness with spirit, of your divine radiance, of knowing and believing that? And how much of it is something else? Is fear, resentment, anger, frustration, separateness, doubt, limiting belief? How much of it, how much of that pie is anything other than oneness with God? Because that is where our work is, to make that pie just be the pie of oneness, right? The pie of divine radiance, and to get rid of all those little slices of anything else, anything that stands to separate you from this truth and from knowing it on a deep, deep level. So I would like to take us on a little practice, on a little spiritual meditative practice, and then we're going to come into conversation. But first, I invite you to do a little spiritual math with me. We're going to try and deduct from that sum total, from that pie, some of our limiting beliefs, some of the things that keep us from knowing our oneness with the divine in a complete and total way. So I invite you to, if you're comfortable to do so, to close your eyes and to just breathe with me a minute. We are going to breathe into our bodies, breathing in and breathing out. And just hear this with me. I breathe in the knowing that I am a radiant reflection of God's divine love and wisdom. I breathe in. I am a divine reflection, a radiant reflection of divine love and wisdom. And I breathe out anything that stands in the way of my knowing this. I breathe in and fill myself up with the knowing of oneness, the oneness that I profess, the oneness that I believe, the oneness with the divine. I fill myself up with it. And then I breathe out any limiting belief, any doubt, any fear, any dis-ease, anything, any little slice of the pie that stands in the way of my whole experience being the knowing of this oneness. Just take a few breaths right here, breathing into that oneness. I am a radiant reflection of divine love and wisdom. And breathe out, birth a voice. Breathe out any negativity or sense of doubt. Breathe out anything that separates you from spirit. Just breathing in and knowing this truth. Affirming that you do whatever you can do for a greater expression of this truth in your life. Breathing in the willingness to do your daily practices and to fill that pie with that sense of divine oneness. And breathing out any hesitation or procrastination or anything that would keep you from doing these things on a daily basis. And then just visualizing that pie, radiant pie, shining with the oneness of spirit, with the divine love and wisdom that you are, allowing spirit to flow into you and fill you up. Just take a few breaths there and really feel what that feels like. Allow it to settle into your heart, into your consciousness. And deeply exhale anything that stands in the way of that beautiful oneness. And then before we come back into the room and into our conversation, I invite you to consider these questions. How are you nurturing your knowing of your oneness with spirit? How are you nurturing that seed of affirmation that we are planting? Now, how are you reflecting back to others their own radiant divine nature? Are you willing to see that in them and mirror it back to them? And then, what are you willing to commit to this year? In this new year, what are you willing to commit to? To grow your consciousness, to expand your awareness, to fill your pie with that divine love and wisdom, so that you can't be anything other than the radiant reflection of it. With those questions, I invite you to come back and to share with us whatever it brought up for you or whatever your answers may be. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Wow. I mean, wow. That has got to be one of the top CSL talks of all time. I'm not kidding. Wow. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, but before I do want to put in the little plug about, we give where we receive nourishment and inspiration. So if you did find value in this message and if you're watching it later and you found value in it, if you feel moved to make a contribution or donation, please do so at cslbouldervalley.org/donate. And again, if you're watching later, you want to be a part of our group or come to a talk in real time, you can find our link on the website as well, cslbouldervalley.org.